Michael Hooper, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you. Great to be here, mate.
Mate, how you feeling? You looking fit? You looking well? How you feeling?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm a little bit tired today, I'll be honest. We shot a game last night, watched a bit of rugby last night where I was doing some of the media stuff. And I was just talking about how I never thought I'd be in media. So shot that, and now down in the beautiful Gold Coast, bright and early. It's beautiful. You guys just don't have bad weather up here.
Well, mate, Goldie looks really good on you, so you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
Get up in the morning, little AG1, little swim. What's training looking like for you at the minute? Because you still look like you fit. You must be training still, yeah?
No, thank you. I'll take that.
Yeah, take it, mate. Take it when they come, brother.
Yeah,
take it when they
got
come.
to. You got to. Yeah, train. I don't run big Ks, not like yourself. So much more sort of VO, just trying to train VO2 stuff and try and get it done quickly and early in the morning. That is best intentions. If I have to push it back to later in the day, I do, because kids have a habit of ruining sleep. And then, I never thought I'd see a gym after I finished footy. But I've found how important just some strength training is as well. So I do that probably 2 times a week, and then sort of a lot of that sort of slow or medium heart rate stuff I'm starting to do now. Sure.
Why do you think it's important to still do it while you come out of footy?
Oh, I think it makes, like, it's going to sound so lame, but like, I'm a better person when I do some training.
Yeah.
So if I get some training done in the day, or I know I'm going to, then it just like seem to be a more positive person.
Man, I don't know what it is, like, because I've been floating around, like, doing training in the afternoon. Like, since finishing footy, I was almost like, okay, well, I'll train first thing in the morning. I'll do what I got to do, and then I'll train in the afternoons. And I'll still do something. Like, I might go for, like, a walk. I'll have like an AG1. I'll walk. I might walk with my partner, have a little ocean swim. But then I'll save, like, my really hard stuff for the afternoon. And I just don't know if I've got that in me anymore. Like, it's so much harder. Like, I had a long run last weekend, and it was in the afternoon. It just didn't work. and so now I think I'm resorting back to, like, doing a nice hard thing, or even just doing something in the morning. I think it does set you. And to be honest, I feel a lot better. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I feel a lot better. It's something that I don't know. I think maybe it's the years and years of training. Condition myself to want to do something and need to do something. So the fact that if I get some training done, have a good sweat, and that could be sauna or anything, but have a good sweat, then it does set me up. But best intentions laid are not always the way it plays out, particularly at the moment. Like, I had, when my kids were sleeping well, it was, okay, great, I've got 5 to sort of 6:37 in the morning. Like, I can do anything I want in that period. Now it's like, well, they might wake up 3 times, and then the alarm could go off at 5. So that alarm just doesn't get set anymore. And if they happen to have a good night through this little patch we're going through, then happy days. Maybe I've got something in the morning. But if not, I'll push it back, and I'm lucky I can be pretty flexible with when I do train. So I'll still get it done in the morning. If I'm looking at the clock and it's like 2 or 3 o'clock, my motivation is starting to go low. Like, I'll get it done, but I prefer, like, I'm just better for the day when I know I've locked that away.
Do you think you have more time now that you've retired, or do you reckon you had more time when you were playing? I'm thinking, like, balancing, spending time with kids, additional training. Because when you were playing, it's like your training was work, but now you also work, you're doing your commentary, you've got a heap going on outside, plus family, plus the training that you want to do. How does the time work now?
Well, it's probably like just my balance of what I want to get done. Unfortunately, like, I don't get no money now to train. I don't get paid to train anymore, but it's still at the top of my list to do because I know it sets the other things up. So maybe I've got my sort of hierarchy wrong in terms of the training doesn't bring in necessarily any sort of positive benefits, like financially or anything, but for me, mentally and personally, like, it's still right up there. So like, it's still very important to me. But the simple thing when you as a footy player is you go and all these things are taken care of you. So when you turn up at home, all that's done. So you can then be fully present. Whereas I think it's quite a challenge when you're trying to put in my situation, or anyone's situation is difficult in their own way, but trying to put my day together, it's a bit more blurred now. So there's leakage into different areas, and you've got your mind sort of, we were talking earlier around, it's just sort of ruminating. At times you don't want it to be ruminating, whereas in footy world, like, I think you could compartment that sort of thing. I turn up, I train, I go hard, blah, blah, blah. I come home. Maybe we're not winning at the moment, so I'll put a bit of thought into that, but I can put park it to the side. So it is a little bit more difficult when there's a couple more plates spinning.
I was telling you this morning before, when I finished playing footy, I worked for the RLPA, like the Players Association, and my role was to help players, I guess, like transition out of the NRL. And one of the biggest things I would have conversations with the players, but also their partners as well. And when they were in that transition or they were just about to retire, they're like, oh, I can't wait for my partner to finish up. I'm going to have so much more time with them. They're going to be at home more. And I was like, you do know, like, they're probably going to have to work. Like, they're going back to the workforce. They're probably going to be training. They probably might want to be training as well. Family life. I don't think you're probably going to have the amount of time that you expect. And it's, especially from my own point of view, it's like, okay, we work, we do the podcast and we study and whatnot. But I also want to train. And it's like, okay, well, where do you fit the time in for kids and family? It's like, it's hard, man. It's got to be so hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And roles are really clear cut. It's like, I'm going to training at 8 and I'll be home at this time. And then when I'm home or I'm traveling for this 6-week period, then we got 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe we're there for this amount of time. We can come along, do these fun things, and you can mix it in with what you're doing now. It's a bit more blurred and great in different ways. Like more time, not traveling as much.
Sure.
You don't have there is some significant things that is difficult with pro sport. There's not many, but I do not miss it at all.
You don't miss it?
No.
Really?
No.
Do you think you hit every target that you wanted to hit or every goal that you wanted to hit while you were playing?
No. I wanted to win a World Cup. I wanted to win a Bledisloe.
No.
I want to be the best player in the world. That's embarrassing trying to say that, but it was really motivating for me through my time as a rugby player. So no, like we didn't get any of those ones. We had some really good moments. One, you know, part of premiership teams and things like that, and individually had really consistent performances over, you know, quite a few years in the end. So, you know, it was a really great career, one that I loved, and I would not change at all. I think I heard something a while back that's like, do I regret a lot? Yeah, but I wouldn't change anything.
Really?
Yeah, because it's all learning, it's all great experiences. Yes, it would have been nice to hold up a couple of trophies with my teammates, but hey, there's a lot of factors that go into putting together, you know, a winning series or a winning World Cup or anything like that. So, yeah, the cup is certainly full with that side of life, but it's always could be more.
No, of course, I get it. A lot of my mates who are coming out of the game, I kind of see two kind of trends. Like one guy's that say, like, I don't miss it. I'm so fulfilled. I had like the best time playing. But then I also have a few other mates that are like, oh, it would have been really great to do more, or I wish I did a few extra little things while I was playing. And so it's kind of like reflecting on your career and looking about it, like, oh, was it a really positive experience? Like, do you have fond memories of your career, or was there like, oh, I would have changed a few things? Oh,
I've got very fond memories, but there's also rose-tinted glasses, right? Like, I think the way I think about it now is when you think about your kids as like I've got a 4 and a 3-year-old. I think about them as a 6-month-old, and they're hard at that period, particularly for a dad.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's just such an easy period. That's why I think people, you know, can have more and more kids is because you go, oh, that period's such amazing. But when you're in the actual that period of time, so looking at my career there, like there's times are really tough. The team's not functioning the way we want it to. Yeah. Individually, I might be out of form. I might be injured. I might be traveling and homesick and all these things. So I tend to forget that some of those moments existed, and you just go, you know, how great was it playing around the world? How great was it being able to compete? Yeah. So look, I think I lie. The only thing I miss about rugby or playing at a high level is that I get to go to games now as part of the commentary team. Is running out that run out moment.
Really? Why is that the
full stadium? Oh, like I haven't found a way to recreate that feeling. Like when you are just so focused in on high stakes, but you've prepared for this. You're about to go into a confrontational game. Like there's something really cool about being in that mindset in front of a lot of people. And, you know, I love that. That was my thing. I was a competitor when, you know, you turned up to game day. So I love that. Wanted nothing more than be part of a winning team. So I've found that, but But then I see the guys start hitting each other like 5 minutes into the game on the sideline. I'm like, geez, it's nice to be here. And then I jump in the car and I go home and I go to bed. I'm not sore one bit.
Yeah.
I'm not wired for the next 5 hours. Can't go to sleep to 3 a.m. And I get up and I feel great and I can pick the kids up and, do everything I want to do the next day. And so I burnt that candle and happily burnt. But I think I'm okay with being 50 and going, oh, could I still do it?
Yeah.
For that 10 minutes, but that's okay.
Is there any moments now where you think, oh, I could potentially go back again?
Yeah, when you're mid-training.
Yeah.
I've thought about this just recently, like you're mid-training and you've got a cool setup here and I've got a little setup at my house and I put on some music and I'm not going to tell you what music I listen to because it'd be embarrassing, but get in the zone a little bit and you're like, do you reckon? Maybe like there's a World Cup for rugby next year and you're like, you reckon? And then I realized pretty quick, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot that you forget. Again, that rose tinted glasses thing that you go, no, what's it actually look like? What's the Monday to Friday grind and all things inclusive? But you've got a tendency to go, oh, that moment of running out here would be amazing. But what's that lead up to do that? And then also the confidence to go out and go and be the player I'd want to be. I know that there's a lot that goes into that.
Do you think you can recreate that feeling somewhere else?
I don't know if I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I need to. It was a beautiful, great feeling, and really like you're fizzing and hairs on the back of your neck stand up. But there's feelings that I hadn't had as a rugby player that I'm having now in different parts of life, and particularly around there's obviously my family side, which is just such importance to me. But then the secondly is like trying something new.
Yeah,
trying to do something new and, be really nervous and out of my comfort zone in a different way is a really difficult feeling because, again, I'm probably an overthinker, which has its benefits, has its negatives as well. But being an overthinker, I think it helps me prepare more than perhaps I would have otherwise. So that's that feeling of like, oh God, this could absolutely bomb out. Yeah. Some work I do with high performance and some teams and corporates there. I'm like showing up, going, God, this could absolutely bomb out. What if I just lose all my information? What if asking myself all these questions that is that spiral that everyone's experienced, and then you get through it, you do it, and it's like new skill unlocked, and you get to get better at something new. And that's a totally different feeling that I didn't have as a rugby player.
What are some of the things that you've been trying that's new?
Well, running high performance workshops has been one. Networking with different groups, and getting out of the rugby circle. So doing a bit of work with the Sydney Swans Institute. And corporates as well. So just understanding that like themes that I had and my teammates had and sportsmen and women have in their world, and the themes are very similar to corporate, to businesses, and there's this nice little parallel connection. It's just finding what are the things that work in both worlds and how to sort of bring out what my understanding is and my knowledge, and then share it with corporate and business and also youth like that sort of aspiring next generation. How does that work for them, and what can I learn from them? Because how things work for me as an athlete or a high performer is very different to how it would have worked for you.
Sure.
We like to go. We're similar in the sense we love the water. Like training, things like that. But how you would have prepared is very different to how I would have prepared. How you needed to turn up on game day looks different. So but how can we bridge that gap? How can we help each other learn what works? So that's been super exciting trying to put that together.
I think understanding that like individuals prepare differently is so important, right? Not just in an athlete sporting sense, but also in a corporate environment. You mentioned that you were a big overthinker. I'd love to zoom in on that a little bit, because when I'm having these conversations on the podcast, sometimes I think like, who's listening to this? And I imagine there's probably going to be like a lot of athletes, probably like corporate athletes as well, who potentially do a very similar state. What did it look like for you overthinking, like when you were playing and then now transitioning out? You mentioned it helped you. Do you think overthinking can help you, or can you get into the stage where you might spiral? And if you do spiral, how do you navigate out of that?
Well, I have spiraled and I took time out of the game at one point in time. That's where I spiraled. I couldn't get back. But why I say it works positively for me is my brother referenced something. He had to do something for me when I was retiring.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, when I was a younger guy and, you know, we would have a couple of drinks together out on a, you know, Friday or whatever. And on Saturday, this is off season or something, on Saturday I'd get up and run and get up and train. And he was a really good, talented footy player, but he would lie in bed, play games the whole day.
Yeah.
And why I say it's overthinking, maybe it's an underlying level of anxiety, is because I'd wake up and I'd go, well, I had fun, was able to let the hair down, really good, but you know, what are the other guys doing? What's my competition doing?
Yeah.
You know, they're probably training. Well, what if I train today? If I train today, that's going to give me a little one up. That's a little like notch against that. So then I started probably connecting, doing not extras. Like I wasn't a crazy extras guy. I was more turn up, and if we're going to train, I'm going to train 100% all the time, because training the way that I wanted to play was really important for me. So turning up to training and having a poor day, the overthinking would be come along the lines of I can't have a bad day today. You know, what if I have a bad day? And then probably what I learned as time went on was flipping that, what if I have a bad day? Those questions that pop in your head I find are very normal. I think are normal for everyone. When I'm sort of talking to a lot of people now around this corporate business, whatever, is those questions that we all ask ourselves, and that spiral that you can go on. The high performers or the consistent high performers or people that do well in whatever it is they want to do are able to kind of cut that spiral and go, yeah, I could have a bad day, but what would it look like if I went really well? What would a good training session look like for me? Oh, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z. If I'm thinking about playing my best game on Saturday, how do I work back and put together a really good week? So when I turn up on Saturday, if I feel shit or if I feel good, I'm going to have a good performance. I'm going to be at that 6 or actually no, I'd want to be always 7 or above in a performance.
And can we train that, do you think? Because I imagine we can get like we have a negative bias, right? And we have like 60,000 thoughts every single day. So
it's terrifying.
The reality that all of them are going to be positive is probably highly unlikely. Do you think that we can train ourselves to look at the positive and have a good day rather than spiral and have a bad day?
Yeah, I think you can. Again, this goes back to that conversation of working out what works for the individual, because what works for the individual is very difficult. But I think becoming okay with some negative thoughts is really good, because some negative thoughts are fear-based, but fear is a great motivator. You look at like debt can be a great motivator.
We're talking about that this morning.
Yeah, we're talking about that this morning. You look at, well, I don't want to lose my position in the team. Yeah. We've got this massive presentation coming up and I don't want to be underprepared for that. If I get asked a curly question, will I know the answer to it? So those are kind of negative thoughts. But when you're able to reframe them, okay, so if I do have that, what would it look like if I did this well? That then attaches to an action. Yeah. That action is, I probably need to study for that question, or I need to be really across my detail, or I need to be physically feeling as best as I can for a game on Saturday, or whatever it is. And then that action then leads to usually a better outcome. Now, it doesn't guarantee the outcome, of course, because there's so many, it's multifaceted what good outcomes look like. But that, I reckon that connection, asking better questions leads to better actions, and then ultimately the outcome's going to be in your favor more often than not.
I think like a key part of what I took away from that is like your ability to cut it. You said you can cut it, or you can like almost catch it before it goes negative and you spiral. Like, I think that's probably a huge part of what I'm taking away from this is like, yeah, it's okay to have these thoughts because it can propel you to have some really great success, like prepping for the workshop, prepping for the game, but your ability to catch that thought before it gets to become too negative and it has a positive effect. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I say this like I've got it nailed. I don't.
Yeah.
There's times where you go down and you go, how did I end up there in that spiral? I often say it's like, a spiral you could go down sometimes in the lead up to a game is like, I hope I play well. What if I don't play well? What if I never get my spot back? What does that mean for my contract? What does that, and I'm not saying that happened verbatim, when I talk about this stuff, but that's where you can go. And then you kind of, a couple minutes later, you're like, oh, wow, how did I get down there? I just lost my contract. I've got to find a new job. But no, it's not, yes, catching it's right, but the acceptance part of catching it's the key.
Yeah.
It's not trying to fight against it. Don't think about that. Because in my experience, and I mentioned, some not difficulties, but some times that I'd had through it is when I fight it, again, not going to paint everyone with this brush, but when I fight it, it almost makes the thought more prevalent.
Yeah.
So being able to go, yeah, hey, that's, what your mind does. It throws up plenty of ideas, 60,000 in a day, which I didn't know. So, it's going to throw you up a lot of terrible ideas in that time. So being able to just go, okay, cool.
A tool I really liked is when, we have that thought and it's stuck and you're like, oh yeah, it's a really great idea. Catch it. I'll move on. Great. But those thoughts, they get really stuck there, and it might be like 2 a.m. and you're wide and you're like, oh, well, why can't I sleep? I'm just fixated and I'm ruminating on this one thought. The thing that I really loved, a positive psych gave me this tool. It was around like you write it down, like write the thought down and read it aloud. And it's like, is this actually true? And you can almost like challenge the thought. Like, is this actually a reality? And some of the times, if it might be, you can actually like write out how you can actually move past it. But when you write it out, you can kind of look at it and say, all right, well, would I have this thought? Or would I say this to a friend? Would I say this to a family member? Like, a lot of these thoughts can be really mean and really nasty. Like, the way we talk to ourselves can be sometimes horrible. When you write it down, you look at it, it's like, no, that's actually not the truth. And having that awareness, I think, is really cool.
Oh, it's a good tool. I haven't tried that because, I think verbalizing something is a way to sort of take the sting out of it when you just sit on it for ages and go, is that how things are or meant to be? So,
I was
try that.
I was having this conversation with my partner, the same thing, when you're like early morning, you're wired, you might be like stuck on a certain thing. And then she's like, how'd you sleep? I was like, I had this thought that I was just stuck on last night. And then as soon as I said it out loud, I was just like, that's actually not a reality at all. She's like, really? I was just like, yeah. And I was like, now I say it out loud, it sounds kind of silly.
I should have kept that to myself. I should have just dwelled on that for longer.
For sure. But mate, you mentioned there was a time in your career where you did have to take a step away from the game. Are you mind talking about it? You okay with talking about it? What did that look like for you?
It was just a culmination of probably a couple of years of wondering where my health was at, which was probably brought to a crescendo by having a 4-month-old and then finding out we were pregnant again.
Wow.
No, not we were pregnant, but my wife was pregnant.
It was around 2022?
22, yeah. So I was in Argentina. I always struggled with being away from home. Not struggled, like I wasn't, but I need to be busy when I'm touring.
Yeah.
So, if it's a day off on a Wednesday, golf. Like I like to be busy, not in the sense of just being busy for busy's sake, but I don't know. I've always just been I love home. So if I'm away overseas, I want to be doing something. I want to be either training or I want to be having fun, making the most of the environment. So
did your family come with you?
No.
You're by yourself?
Yeah, it's tricky you travel you're a touring circus really as a Wallaby team, and that's when you do your predominant amount of travel. Yes, as a club, you would do some travel. You go to South Africa back in the day for sort of 2 weeks, but not crazy. Everything else was sort of a 2-night trip.
Yeah.
In Wallaby season for that 6 months, you are a traveling circus. So there's 30 plus team players. Yeah. Then you've got to add another 15 staff. So if you bring family, and family are welcome at periods, but if family's there a long time, you've all of a sudden got 70 odd people, 80 odd people cruising around here. So and you're trying to win games, and so finding that balance is would be a great discussion for coaches and different leaders to have, because there is different ways to do it.
Yeah.
So no, they didn't travel. They traveled at times. There was times where I was able to have them, through that COVID period, which was great. We were caught up here in Queensland for a bit, which was lovely. So, a bit of time up here, but for most of my career, no. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so you had your first baby, incredible little baby boy. And then straight afterwards, you had what does he call it? Irish birth. Irish baby. What were we talking about this morning?
Irish twins.
Irish twins
is under 12 months and under.
Incredible.
So we can't claim Irish twins, but
very close.
Very close. Yeah.
And so tell me what it looked like for that time. You were traveling away. You had a partner at home with two babies. What was the feeling?
So the feeling was like I said, I'd been wrestling with what the next stage of my career looked like. So I'd started rugby straight out of school, 2010. 2009, finished school, go straight down to Canberra, to the Brumbies to play. I played my first year out of school, 2010, and then debuted in the Wallabies from 2012. So from that period, I'd just been hell for leather. I just spoke earlier around, my mentality and turning up and training, and that required a fair bit of input, and balance that really well for a period of time. And then I get to that point, and a couple of years ago, what am I going to do after rugby? how much do I want to keep pushing myself and throwing my body around? You mix in just, what's the rest of life going to look like? I think coming to that sort of 30 years old is a period in, I've seen a lot of men's lives that you sort of start to go, okay, what's this? I'm not 20 anymore. I'm starting to actually think about my health and longevity and everything like that. And then for me, it was throwing in a couple kids. So then that's amplified then, because I'm going, okay, how's my well-being in a health sense? What am I doing to my head, my body? What am I going to be like at 50? I hope I can pick them up, even though that'd be pretty big if I was 50, I was still picking them up, but I don't know if that'd let me at that age. That those kind of things go in your head. And we talked about the questions you ask yourself. That was the spiral.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize or understand what I'm talking about now when that was happening. So then amplified again by jet lag, being overseas, being a captain of the team, because I'd always been very firm as a captain of the team that if you're in there, you're not deadwood. Because when you're deadwood and you're traveling with the squad, and what I mean by deadwood for people that haven't heard that term before is if you're injured, you got no chance of lacing up and playing on Saturday.
Yeah.
I feel like that's tough to carry people in the squad through that period, because you're in a different mindset. You're not going to play.
Yeah.
If you're preparing to play, even if you're on the bench, even if you're preparing the starting team to play and take the opposition on the weekend, you're just in a different mindset. If I'm sort of, going to pull maybe players away who are playing away, maybe bring them down to my level, which is sometimes can be really good. But as a captain, I didn't really love that influence all the time. I think if you're in there for a real purpose. And being able to turn the switch off is discussion for another time, but being able to be on for the periods, that those players didn't have it. So then I was starting to ask myself in that period, I was going, okay, well, if I'm a little bit of deadwood, I'm not 100%, should I be in here? How can I lead the team when I'm, doing that, in that sort of mindset? And then that all came out and unraveled in sort of a pretty quick 24 to 48 hours for me. I was like, look, I need to get home. Need to get home, need to, get my feet on the ground.
Were you battling with that for a little while, or was it just like the 24 hours, 48 period?
Oh, no, that's probably the crescendo moment of it, where I was overseas and I, struggled to sleep one night, struggled to sleep for 2 nights, and then a test match was coming. So it's like, it was going, okay, well, I can try and fight my way through this. But I wasn't interested in trying to fight my way through. I knew I needed to have a bit of time out. And then you talk about moments you're really proud of in your career. We started off with that. And I, got back 2 or 3 months later and played some really good rugby at the end of 2022 that I was really proud of. And, now I look back and, again, would I have done things different? Yeah, because I don't think I needed to have that experience of a couple of months out of rugby to be where I am now. That's how it happened for me. But I look back and I wouldn't change anything. Despite how, it was an uncomfortable period, because you're trying to, you're almost going through this like, where am I? What am I thinking? Where am I? So it's like almost this, all the foundations are well, not the foundation maybe, but all this, the house that you've built or I'd built mentally needed a rebuild. And maybe that was due to, my brain was going through a rewire. It was starting to think about transition. It was pushed into that because, had kids while I was still playing. So, all great things, but tricky.
I imagine it's probably really hard while you're away, being away from your 2 little kids as well and your partner.
Well, so so Tommy, our boy, was 4 months old, and we found out we're pregnant with the second.
I gotcha.
So we have a 13, just over a 12-month age gap for them. So it was just the one, but she was home and pregnant with the 4-month-old. So
tell me about that, because I asked a lot of these questions because I'm about to go through something really similar. We got running all the major marathons this year in the world, and the last 3 are Berlin, Chicago, New York, which means I'll be away for 6 weeks when our baby's due. I think I'll get to see her for 2 weeks, and then I'm on the road for 6 weeks after that. And hopefully my partner can come for the back end of it, but Bub will just be too small. So I'm in this period now where it's like similar to you, where I'm like trying to build a podcast, trying to do this thing. A big part of how we get paid is through partners and sponsorship. So really feel like I need to do these marathons. I need to be there, but it also requires being away from my loved one, be away from like a newborn baby, which like just so excited to see. So I guess I'm really interested on how you went with being away from your loved one and being away from your kid, and if there was anything that kind of helped that.
Oh, well, understanding. again, I'll preface this by saying we're different.
Yeah.
So some of the things that work for me, accepting that, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be away, what's the purpose I'm going to be away for? Is there ways that we can make it easier for each other? What's some of the, help that we can get on either side of it? What's some of the help that you can get at home? What's some of the help that I could get overseas to just make it a little bit easier? But if there's purpose behind whatever it is that is trying to be done, then it makes that time valuable. If you're a bit shaky on that, and perhaps that was the period that I had there, I was a bit starting to go, I want to be, this rugby player that I wanted to be anymore. I'm starting to shift into dad mode, wanting to be a really present dad for a long period of time. And so, I was going through that wrestle of what my purpose was meant to be a little bit. When you have that ironed out, and that's a communication between yourself internally, partner, externally, all those things, then I think it makes it easier, but it's still difficult.
Did your relationship with rugby change when you became a dad?
Yeah, I found it much harder to put my body on the line as much. So I had to really think about that when I was young. And maybe it'd actually be an interesting one for you to ask more guys and girls on the podcast. But you're 20, you don't think about it, man. You're just like, this. It's turn up and let's go. Yeah. That's certainly the way that I was built. And then all of a sudden it was starting to be like, it was trickier. Yeah. It was tricky. I had to really put some thought behind, how I needed to turn up for games, how I needed to turn up at training, and what resource, physical, mental, I needed to allocate to that, to trying to do that well.
Because people do it, like especially in rugby. I know in rugby league, like there's a heap of young dads. Like typically you get paid a lot more at a younger age. So the ability to have a family. Well, I don't know, in our circles, we would see a lot of young dads. But when I was in it, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but it just seemed like the boys would just get on with it. I didn't see there was much of a shift, and maybe we were just so young and still in that mode that we were just going and happy to bang heads and happy to and happy to have these big collisions. I was like, maybe once we hit that like 30, 31 years old, where we start thinking about our body and picking up our kids, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a factor for me. But I've seen other players who actually grow leaps and bounds.
Wow.
Now the purpose things changed for them.
Yeah.
Some of the players that I'd witnessed is, hey, I've got this family now at home, and I have the opportunity to go out and represent them. I have the opportunity to go out and provide whatever the word is for the family and do this and represent for that, and that's hugely motivating.
Yeah.
So you see I've seen players jump after having a kid and sort of start to excel because it becomes really clear what their purpose is to go in and do. Go in, be the best player I can be, go home, be the best dad I can be. And when you have that, nice synergy, then I think it actually really excels some players. When there's leakage, and I think there is probably leakage for everyone. It's not fair to say there's not leakage, in thinking when you're out there in a team huddle and you're like, oh, I've got to do this for the family tonight, or, how's this going to end up? Yeah. I'm sure there is that for everyone. But maybe more for some than others.
Sure. I heard this one guy talk on a podcast, like I can't remember, I'm blanking, but essentially he was saying that he's like, I'm a hard worker. He's like, I work incredibly hard, but I went to another level when I found out my partner was pregnant. He's like, you won't experience more growth, financially, spiritually, creatively than when you find out that the person you love is going to bring your child into the world, because it forces you to think about, okay, well, what's this life going to look like for this little baby? And you grow crazy. And I remember having a conversation similar with my partner when we found out we were going to have a baby. And it's like, okay, well, is the house going to be ready? Like, what does our financial model look like? Is this going to be okay? And you actually are in a position where you are forced to grow as a person, I think. And so I love what you said when you see these guys like go leaps and bounds, where it's having a baby. I don't know, I think it can grow you as a human as well, because you have that conversation where a lot of guys like, oh, I'm gonna set myself up before I have kids, or I'm gonna work really hard and then I'll have kids later down the track, where it's like, oh, maybe having a kid now actually forces you to grow up and be in that place earlier.
Best laid intentions, right? Like I was probably one of those guys. I eyed off a certain World Cup that I'd finish, and then I was like, okay, once I'm done there, then I'll start thinking about a family. Well, that 2-3 years before that got routed a different way, but that's life, right? You make shifts. I think One of the difficult things of it, and this is again just difficult for me, but I think to be the best, you got to be. There's a level of selfishness you need.
Yeah.
So, and particularly the older you get into your career. So when you're young, man, like train hard, play hard, and then you can turn up on Monday, and it's like the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Like you can rip into it back on Monday. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 31, 32, and your bones and your joints don't move the same. Yes, you don't require the same level of mental input that it once required to learn these new skills, to understand what it took to prepare and everything. But your body requires a lot more effort. So early days, the mental stuff, what type of player am I? What type of training do I need to do? Where do I fit in this team? What type of a leader am I? Like that. Cognitive mental load is really high, as is the physical. I think you do need to build that foundation as an athlete physically. When you're young, you've got the ability to do it. And like I say, you can rejuvenate really quick. Towards the end, mentally, if you've done it for a long time, you start to know what you're about.
Yeah.
You know what type of person you turn up in each day. You know what as a leader you bring, or you know what as a player you bring, and how you train to get yourself there on a Saturday. But your body requires so much more. So do you get massage? Do you get, do you need to get to the ice bath or sauna more? What type of weights you need to be doing? What type of, rehab, which is just extensive when you get, plus 30. I mean, that was more, I did more rehab towards, when I was playing last year, then it felt like I was doing weights. And rehab's boring because rehab just gets you onto the park. Whereas weights feels like, you get to sweat, you get to lift a bit of weight. But rehab's like, what the hell am I doing this for again? And then that's only to get you onto the field. And the list of stuff that you need to do when you played for a long period of time is high. So what I mean by that is you actually need more time to be selfish later on, or maybe not more time, but you need to allocate time. So you finish training at 20, I could go straight home. 25, go straight home. At 31, well, I probably should have sat in the ice bath a bit longer. I should have probably gone out and got more, body tissue, soft tissue work, that sort of stuff. But I want to get home. I want to get home and be with my partner and be with the kids. So then that stuff gets put, on the back burner a little bit. Not as selfish. Did that hinder my performance later? I don't know. I don't think I played late enough. In Australia, I was still only 31, 32 when I retired. So probably not. But finding that balance is tricky.
Looking back on your career, like you obviously had this incredible career. What advice would you give yourself to an 18-year-old, or like when you first came into the game?
Well, this is that one. It's like, would I change everything? Yeah. Do I regret anything? No. So now that I sit here, I can sit here from a position going, there's probably things I would have changed. But at the time, no, I'll do it all the same way.
Well, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
What would I tell my 18-year-old self? I'll try and find fun more often.
Interesting.
Yeah. Definitely find the fun. Now, it can't always be fun. Like if you're trying to do something hard, or if I was trying to, there's moments that are really, really difficult, but how can you just balance those out with having fun? Don't take it too seriously. Take it seriously enough that it matters to you, that you try and do your absolute best. But when there's not time to be in that mode, have as much fun as you can, because it is finite. The experience that you get is finite there, and it's great. And like I said, I don't miss it, but it's a pretty cool experience.
It's a big theme that Ben Crowe talks about.
It is.
Being playful, having fun in the midst of competition and chaos. I think that is something that I reckon I wish I did more of when I was playing. When you're in the thick of it and you're so like, I've got to hit all the 1%ers, I've got to do it all. Like, all right, I'm going to get in now, I've got to get out because I've got to do this or X, Y, and Z. I wish I spent more time in the dressing rooms, just sitting down, having a beer with the boys afterwards for a longer period of time instead of racing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think that playful part is so huge.
Yeah, being able to take a breath, smell the roses, all that stuff is good, and is overlooked when you play a game on Saturday. It might be a great win on Saturday, and then all of a sudden you've forgotten about it because you want another win. And I play with some amazing players who had won everything under the sun, and that still would have liked to won more.
Wow, interesting.
So all of the things that I would have loved to have done, they had finished it or had that in their career, and they still would have loved to have more.
Wow.
And that tells you a lot about, a high performer or something like that. So there's two ways to look at it. It's like, you know, oh, gee, like, are you ever satisfied?
Yeah.
You know, or the other way to look at it is like, no matter if you got all those things that you wanted, would that have filled the cup?
Yeah,
You know?
interesting. And then I wonder if that learning from playing for so long, we take that into everyday life, being a dad, you know, this time of life where you got two young kids, it's like, oh, well, I want to have the most amount of fun and be playful with them instead of thinking about the next thing. I wonder if that's probably a huge part of it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the presence stuff is really important. Tough to do. I'm poor at it. Trying to get better at, you know, so, you know, I'm not preaching saying I'm from a position of, you know, on a pedestal around any of that, because it's really difficult to do. There's personal, you know, desires that I want to try and do in a career or a personal capacity. And then there's also the family ones, and balancing the two becomes really difficult again. So sometimes you're playing with the kids, and all I wanted to do was be playing with the kids, and all I'm thinking about is, you know, what I've got to do tomorrow, or what's coming up, or the little block that I've got to do, or being nervous around preparation for something. So it's a mix, mate. Like it's never, I haven't nailed it. And there's times where you're like, you get it dialed in and you nail it, and then you get clunky again. But that's kind of, you know, that's kind of life I'm finding, you know, it's just comes in this nice sort of rhythm, and it's never quite in the middle, and nor should it be. That's what makes, you know, it interesting.
Is there a level of guilt, or is there any guilt that comes with wanting to pursue your own passions with also being a dad and being a family member?
Yeah, there is. I want to be a really present dad, and unfortunately, there's a fair bit of travel that comes with my work, so you're not present. So, you know, trying to work and listening to, you know, older people that I've, you know, coaches and speak about, you know, these sort of things on how to try and best work that for me. Is an ongoing challenge. Like there is that level of guilt, but I also think if I was thinking about my kid, and would I want him to go off and chase some really cool things? Yeah, I would. Same. I would love nothing more than them, him and her, boy and girl, to get really independent and really motivated to go and chase that. But I also want to be there to support and be really present with the family, which is, you know, number one for me. Man,
it's the biggest, I think that is the biggest thought that I've had since realizing, like, or finding out my partner's pregnant. It's like, okay, I want to be a cool dad. I want to do all the things. I want to run marathons and do Ironmans and like be someone that my kids can look up to. But that requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of work. I also want to be present for them. I want to be the dad that, you know, kicks the footy around with them, you know, before and after school, take them to swim training, go surfing with them on weekends. So I think that is the biggest challenge, or the biggest thought, where it's like, how do we balance that? And maybe it's not a one size fits all for everyone. Maybe it is different. Yeah,
there's little habits I think that have helped me. If I'm going to be playing with them, the phone is far away.
I love that, dude.
Again, preaching, but not by any means solved on this problem. It's better. Yeah, it sounds really good to say, but I'm not nailing it. But yeah, I find that sometimes really busy day, get home, and the first 10 minutes is actually thinking about like, oh, what have I got tomorrow? How did today go? And whatever. But then if I go back to my phone, it just keeps that loop open. And I don't close that loop. Whereas if after like a 15 or 20 minute period of sort of immersing, getting involved in something else, when I get home, then allows me, then I'm all of a sudden that stuff's then put on the back burner. And you can kind of sit, and I can kind of tell myself, hey, or when those questions pop up in my head, hey, that's tomorrow's problem. That's you know, tomorrow's problem, or I've got time to do that tomorrow. You almost allocate it off. And then I can be present here again. Nice in theory, get it right sometimes, not all the time.
I love that. I've been floating about getting a like a burner phone, like a little Nokia 3220. You know, those like little brick phones.
Be careful with your timing of that and about to have a kid. So
But I'll still have my work phone. I'll still have my iPhone, because the way I'm thinking about it, and this could all just turn to shit as well. This is kind of my like initial thoughts, but I'll have my work phone that's down here. And for those who are listening and not watching the podcast, we're in the studio. We've also got like our office and like our gym down here. So the phone lives down here. I don't bring it upstairs of where is kind of like our family area, but I'll have my little burner phone essentially like with me at all times, and only like family members have that. Only my partner has that. Only my mum and dad have that number. So if something really important, they can call me on my burner phone which is always with me. But if it's work related, maybe it stays down here. I'm not sure.
Oh no, you got to be real clear with those boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, then all of a sudden your mates, there's a WhatsApp group on that burner phone, and you're gone. You know,
it's Friday afternoon. It's like maybe we could just sneak away for a couple of beers to catch up. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I think like I really want to put really clear boundaries in place at the start, because I think I'm one of those people who can be all consumed with work. I think that's definitely something that I'm working on before having kids, or before having our first child. I was like, I want to set the boundaries so otherwise I'll just work. Like if it's at the moment, we're working late. We've got Boston, London Marathon coming up, and that requires like a lot of activations, a lot of podcasts, a lot of things over there. It's just work. So at the minute, it's just like, oh, the laptop's in bed with us, like just ticking away, doing like little emails and things. But I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be like down here. And I think I love what you said about allocating time. Like, okay, well, if you got time tomorrow, like almost like block it out. I think I really like that.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to tell you or tell anyone how to do anything, but go easy on yourself. Like, don't be like, people can be hard on themselves, particularly, from what it sounds like with yourself and other people that you've had on here. They really want to do well at something, really motivated, going to put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
And then something changes in life and you're like, okay, now I need to be this way.
Yeah.
And I don't think life works like you can shut a door.
Yeah.
And once that door's shut, you don't you can't, it's hard to turn off. So, in new periods or periods of transition, the desire is, I want to be this now, but I don't think change happens like that. Yeah. It's sort of a natural progression, and time is the greatest, time is undefeated. Like time just keeps doing its thing. And over that period, there's lumps and bumps and, ironing out periods that need to come. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm much better at this.
Yeah.
It's taken a bit of time. I was really bad and it's hard on myself at periods. Like, you get home and go, why can't I be more on here? And you get angry at yourself and you're like, well, maybe this is just something that's happened. So going back to those questions that you ask yourself, just being accepting.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is what it's going to be like, and not being too hard. And, I think that way I don't know, it just seems to have a much net better outcome.
I really like that. What do you think's been the biggest learning that you've had since being a dad?
Oh, my patience. Man, like I told you, so being selfish as an athlete, and I learned a little bit through captaincy and, a long period of that, but patience, explaining something like manners. Explaining manners is like, I thought it would be, usually say, mate, we say please and thank you here, and you're still saying it 2 years later, and like it's just in one ear out the other ear, and it's hilarious, and you get it, but you kind of think, hey, this should happen now, or we're at this period now, they're 3 years old, this should happen, and it doesn't happen like that. It's not linear. Nothing's linear. It's moving, it's shaking, it's doing all those things. So. Yeah, probably my patience is better, depending on what week it is. You could ask my wife. Maybe my patience is a little bit shorter fuse sometimes, depending on what the week we've had. But probably the patience side of things.
Man, I feel like there's so many great little learnings that I'm taking from this conversation.
Mate, don't listen to me. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. Mate, and tell me about life at the minute. Like you've transitioned out of professional sport. You're a dad now. You're doing a lot of commentating. What does life look like for you now?
Yeah, it's trying to really kick into that next gear. So transition is convoluted. It's messy.
Yeah.
And again, I'm speaking from what I just spoke about, like thinking that I'd close that rugby door. Almost had this like image of like mic drop, walk into the sunset, never deal with rugby again.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do any media. Didn't want to do, certain things. And then all of a sudden I'm doing media.
Oh, interesting.
I'm still engaged in the game. I'd never wanted to coach. I'm not coaching, but I'm involved with teams. I'm involved with a Japanese team, Toyota of a Blitz, and go up there and work with some players up there. So I'm doing... Again, do as I say, not as I do. I never said I'd do these things. I'm doing these things. So that's keeping me connected to the game, which I love, because being surrounded by guys, and girls trying to do really well in team environments, really exciting, really enjoyable. And it feeds into the other stuff that I'm doing, which is working with high performing teams in a corporate and a business sense.
Yeah.
And connecting those themes from what I learned in sport, what I've seen in sport, what I'm still learning in and around sport, to over to business. And now what does it look like in that vertical? Yeah. What are the challenges that men and women see day to day in corporate life? How can things that, we speak about collectively come out and make everyone better? Like it's really, really enjoyable to be around people that want that, who are interested in that, who can teach me something new. Again, like I told you about, can't recreate a rugby feeling. I'm not trying to. I'm getting this great new feeling of learning these other things. So, that's what I'm doing at the moment. And then being a dad as well, which is it's the sort of icing is the wrong word, because the icing sounds like it's the smallest bit, but it's probably the cake. Maybe not the icing.
Is that the analogy?
I don't know. It's actually a bad analogy.
We'll take it, brother.
I'll cut that
out. No, but I think that's so interesting, especially the part around you didn't think you'd ever get into commentary or media when you were playing, and then now it's a huge part of your life. Dude, I was the exact same. Like, I would always be the player that would like brush off the interviews and try and get someone else to do it because I didn't want to do it. And now our job is literally like a media platform. It's so interesting how that works though, and how life works in funny little ways, instead of like, I think like letting life happen like for you instead of to you, and just being on this journey. I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, that's a good one to bring up. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think having boundaries is really good.
Yeah.
So like having restraint is a really good characteristic to have, because you're able to say no.
Yeah.
Able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to prioritize this sort of thing. And so, using myself as an example, saying no to, don't want to be in media, doesn't give you that option to do it. So it sort of cuts that out of your life.
Yeah.
But why? Why would you say no to that certain thing? Being open, or like you said, letting life happen. You don't know where it'll, you don't want to close a door just because you think that's the right thing to do. So being open, being, welcoming of something that could happen that might have a really great benefit that you never saw coming.
For sure.
I'd certainly be in favor of that. So again, it's that balancing act, restraint, but then also being open and accepting.
And it also can turn out way better than what you thought. Like if you are open to these opportunities, you're open to let things come into your life, it could work out so much better. Like when I was playing footy, I thought footy was going to be it. I thought you'd play until your 30s, you play Origin, you play Australia, great, that's a great career. And then what happens afterwards, I wasn't even really thinking about it. But then, finish a little bit earlier than you thought. You're like, okay, well, I can't kick stones forever. Like that's not going to help anyone. And then, okay, well, what are you curious about? I'm curious about mental health, psychology, helping mates transition out. Okay, well, also helping family members with their own stuff. And then that leads into having a conversation. You meet really cool people. You get to work with like the most incredible brands as well. And then you sit back 3 years later, like, oh, this actually turned out to be so much better than what I imagined. Like respectfully, I liked playing footy, but I love this so much more. And then I look at what you're doing in your high performance space, in the commentary and just being out and about. It's like, seems like so great, almost like better than what it could have been.
I always really respect and like people that pivot.
Yeah.
Not pivot. I wouldn't say I've pivoted. There's probably a nice through line of what I'm doing, but who do something else.
Yeah.
And do something else that's, that might have been something of interest to them, but not a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that there's reinvention that can go on in people that I've admired throughout time, and in my close circles they've reimagined what life looks like for them, and I really appreciate that. And I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but I'm working towards having. For 10 years' time, I said, oh, wow, that like you said, 3 years later down the track, you've done all this, you've worked with these amazing brands, and you wake up and you go, doing all right. This is pretty cool. I never thought it would look like this, but how glad I am that it happened. I never knew rugby would look like how it did for that period of time. Really happy with how it all wrapped up. Would we want more? Yeah, you could always want more, but that's fine. Now, what's this? I'm 34 now. What's it going to look like when I'm 44?
Wow.
If I look back and I go, oh, that was a really cool chapter. It could have been messy as, and it is messy at times.
Yeah.
But really enjoyable chapter. So that's what I'm hopeful for, or that's a real motivation and drive of mine, is to push myself into a new world.
What does that word look like?
Well, yeah, it's that
being open.
Yeah, well, being open, but also starting a business.
Yeah.
And, there's some of the challenges there. Like, man, I know you can do a lot with AI these days, but you can't do everything. And, like, I was looking at a spreadsheet the other day. I'm like, man, I'm like, this isn't even like a grade. I reckon some young kids could just absolutely school me in this.
Yeah.
I'm having to learn that. And then you unlock the skill, That's a funny thing when you have kids is like they unlock a skill and then it's like never turning back. But I think, we're just all, older kids now. Yeah. And when you unlock it, it might take a little bit longer to unlock the skill. But when you do, you're like, oh, nice.
Yeah. But I think those like really hard times, I think the learnings, I think the messy seasons, like they're almost like creating layers to a people, like, or to a person. And I look at all the people that I really look up to and they've got so many layers, like, because they've been through hard times or they're really curious and they've got like all these different learnings. Like if I sit down with someone and they're like, yeah, randomly, like I was a school teacher, but then I went and did motocross for a couple of years and now I've got this business and I've actually had like a few different seasons. I was like, that is so interesting. I'm like curious in you as a person versus like, oh, I'm just a footy player. Like my whole identity is just wrapped up in footy. It's like, okay, well, that's cool. I mean, it's great. But for me personally, I'm so much interested in those people who have had messy seasons, who are really curious about really like random left field things and they just geek out about this one little thing. I'm like, well, tell me why. Like, tell me why. I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Oh, no, it is. It is. Look, everyone is so unique. And you think, both played in rugby teams. My perception going into it was, it's just guys, they want to be the best footy players they can be in life. Like, but even the characters within a footy team, like it is worlds apart. What motivates someone or what, the reason why someone plays or, the circumstances in which what that person has gotten to get there are so different.
Yeah.
And probably as a young guy, I did not give that the probably the time that it needs. And I don't think you do. Again, you're turning up, you're wanting to do, the things that you're a bit like, I was selfish, selfish at that time. So you're not really, haven't got that lens, but it is so interesting to think, turn up, play footy, be the best footy player, let's try and win some games, but everyone's coming from such a different place or starting point, even if we are all just rugby players, so that's what's great about, and, I'd always be so encouraging of people being involved in teams because, that balance, it's like a family. That balance and understanding different people is so cool.
Is there a couple attributes that you've seen that people are really successful in rugby and professional sport that crosses over to corporate life after footy?
Successful attributes, relatively clear on purpose, not necessarily nailed on purpose. There's a level of discipline that's.
Oh, sorry, just
Siri, not talking to you. She's been listening the whole time.
They've been listening to us, man. It's a conspiracy in here. So go again. Number one, purpose.
Yeah, the purpose stuff. It's nice to be relative. You don't have to be like, this is why I'm turning up, but just relatively. And then a level of discipline, and then resilience. Because, like you said, life gets messy or things get hard. Whether you lose a game, win a game, lose a season, win a season, personal form, media scrutiny, whatever, there's going to be times where it's hard. You've got to be resilient there, and you build a layer of, you get some skin, some callous skin built up. Same in corporate. You've got to take your hard knocks. You've got to work your way up. Your quarterly report might be terrible. Your performance review might be poor. The business, you might be the threat that of job change and all this sort of stuff. Family. So you got to there's a level of resilience that you got to pick yourself up and go, hey, I've got a plan for this week. I know what I need to get out of it. Blah blah blah. So those three things. Again, you don't have to have all three of them, but if you've got one of them that's super strong, that's great. If you've got two of them, you've got three of them, even better.
Do you think we're born with resilience, or do you think we can build that over time?
Oh, I think it's a built thing. I think, I don't know what the nature-nurture balance is on here. If nature says, someone's more resilient, I have no idea on the science of that. You might, with the study that you're doing, know a bit more about that. Certainly from a nurture sense, everyone's experiences are only their own experiences. So whatever the family experiences and the individual's experience, I think is what they're, used to or prone to. And throughout life, it's guaranteed that there will be difficulty. Whatever your level of difficulty will be is only in your, own sort of circle. So I think as you get older, and I think that's why, older people care less because it's like they know that, that shit happens.
Yeah.
You pick yourself up and you get moving. I think, the resilience has been built by that point in time. You're young, you're a little bit more fragile. So in that sense, now I'm just sort of talking my way through this answer when I don't really have an answer for you. I'm just sort of working it out as I go. That's what I'd probably say. Yeah, I think it definitely is something you can build over time.
Dude, I love this. I've loved this conversation, bro.
Yeah, it's been great.
Mate, before we finish up, what do you think is the biggest thing that you'd like to touch on today that we didn't talk about?
Oh, we touched on a bit. No, I think I've said all I need to say.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've said exactly what I wanted to say.
Go back and rewatch it because that's what I think. Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much. I had
Pleasure.
a beautiful morning, beautiful swim, beautiful AG1, beautiful conversation. Mate, we set up our morning very well. So thank you so much for today, and good luck with everything going forward.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, bro.